You're tuned into MortgageEase Unfiltered, beyond rates and real estate. Join your host, Nicole Farrugia. Get ready for real talk and actionable insights to help you succeed.
Hey everyone, Nicole Farrugia here, and thanks for joining us for another episode of MortgageEase Unfiltered. So I kind of promised you that this podcast was not going to just be about finance and real estate, that we were going to talk about all of the things that come along with that, business and entrepreneurship and life and all the ups and downs that, come along with it. So today is a special one because I'm not chatting just by myself and with you guys. I have a special guest, Robina Abramson-Walling. So thank you so much for joining us. I just before I kind of hand it over to you, Robina, to do your intro, I kind of wanted to let everyone know why I wanted you here today. So kind of just, stemming off of that intro that I just mentioned, in my life personally, I've had a lot of ups and downs where, specifically when it comes to business and life, you think you're okay when it comes to, the day-to-day stresses and all of this kind of, stuff in life. And, you learn, or for me anyway, you learn the hard way sometimes that, you think you're okay and you're not. And, maybe you feel it, but your body's like, yeah, no, not so much. And so you and I have known each other for a long time now. And I have watched you, and your family. I know your husband as well too. And I think you guys are probably one of the cutest and fittest and healthiest families I know. And I love and I appreciate that about you guys. And so when I was thinking about all of this, I thought of you right away because I have seen you from years kind of go from being on stage and, what we would equate to phenomenal shape and everything back then. And, all of the things that we kind of aim to have and accomplish. And then over the years, I've heard you talk about sort of your struggles, your stresses, and then, what you've kind of built now, learning from all of that. So that was one of the biggest things for me. I was like, you are the perfect person to chat about all of this and kind of help us through and navigate some of the things. So before we kind of get into it, just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. What an honor, especially as your first guest. Thank you so much. Life's been lifing.
I love that too. Yep.
And, I really believe that the best thing in life you can do is go through it, learn through it, and then share, so that I believe my job is to really shorten the gap that people have to be in those down phases of life. And, my background as someone that came from health and wellness. So I was a nurse by education, worked at a teaching hospital in Toronto, and then had children, and really realized that I had lost myself to motherhood. I realized that I had to redefine myself and create something for me. And as I'm in this phase of my life now, as my children are all going to university and moving out and all these other things, I'm so grateful that I took that time to really define this different time in my life. So I'll give you a basic synopsis of what happened. But so I left nursing to raise my children and had 3 kids in 5 years. So
and you have 4 total now, right?
I have 4 kids. And I was married at the time, and then went through a divorce, and really chose me, which is a really hard decision, especially as a mother. Yes. And I really decided that I wanted to create a life for myself that my kids, when they're in their older stages of life, that they realize that they don't stay in things because they have to, or for their children, something that I witnessed with my parents. So, that was really a hard road to go down because there was a lot of adversity. There was a lot of, people judging me,
judgment, yep.
People leaving my side, friends I lost along the way. And this was also at the time when I was competing as well. So, it really changed me. That being said, I became a personal trainer in the process of that. So always taking with my health and wellness background, but then adding nutrition and adding training to that sort of wheelhouse. In the process of that, my husband now, who was a personal trainer, and we decided to have this brilliant idea of becoming entrepreneurs. So we opened a gym. And I had no business opening a business because I knew nothing about business, right? I just had an idea. And
That's kind of where it starts for most of us though, right? Like, we're just going to do it. We'll jump in, figure it out later.
I know, but in true Robina fashion, I literally just go. I don't think about the how. I just always go with my why. Okay. So I was creating something. And in the 5 years that we had that gym, one thing I did realize was that, you know, you never really know everything. And it's really important to outsource when you don't know everything. And I think as entrepreneurs, one of the things that we tend to think is, I'll do that when I make money. I'll do that. And you kind of are always
reactive approach as opposed to, yeah.
Right. And, you know, that in retrospect, that probably wasn't the best idea. I probably would have hired a business coach and hired someone to help me really build the business. And one of the things that I realized that I did, which I shouldn't have done, was I took my own financial savings and dumped it into the business.
So many people do that. I actually just talked about this the other day with somebody. So common.
Yeah. And so because they don't tell you when you're starting a business, you need overhead. Where's that overhead going for? If you had the money, you wouldn't be asking for a loan.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, I learned a lot through that business, and I'm so grateful that we had that experience. But in that experience, because most people start a business because they have a passion for something and they recognize that there's a need because they have this passion, they haven't been able to find it, so they create it. But one of the things that I recognized was because I was so heavily involved in that passion, when it came to bill payments, when it came to the overhead, when it came to the hiring, it was really weighing very heavy on me. And so I was the one that was seeing the hardships of the business. Everyone else was seeing how beautiful it was and all these things. And so the passion that I had died. And the one thing that gave me mental health, the one thing that gave my passion to me was fitness. And because fitness was my business, I ended up hating fitness.
Yeah. It happens. It's so true. Yeah.
And I ended up realizing that I was getting burnt out. So what I did was I stopped working out completely. So going from someone who used to work out like 7 days a week to 5 days a week, and then fitness was my life, to someone who never worked out at all. And in the process of this, I also had a baby. So
how long was that? Like that, just ballpark that gap between, or like that period of time where you're really feeling like, okay, I'm hating this now. I'm not working out. I'm not doing, you went from this to this.
So that was in the 4th year, probably, or 3.5 year mark into the business. We had our daughter, Nala. And so then I stopped working out. And I realized that I needed to stop, and I started meditating. So you're talking about someone whose brain does not shut off, who literally is like, always go, go, go. So I had to learn how to shut my brain off because I was slipping down a real bad slope. Thankfully, during this time, it was 2019, and our business was up for release. And we had a falling out with our landlord, and I knew that this was my out. Mm-hmm. So we bailed, we closed the business, and we lost so much. But I can really say that it was the best thing ever, because the next year was 2020.
You just gave me goosebumps when you said that, because I resonate with that so much. It's like, you have to see the positive in that, right? Like, it was so bad, whether it was like financially and everything for you, but you're like, no, it was the best thing for me. And it's recognizing that.
We would not have made it in 2020. I'm not going to talk about what happened in that year, because we all know what happened in that year. But that was when I shifted gears and I realized I needed something else. So I became a health coach. And I was working like a networking marketing business at the same time as this, but I fell in love with coaching, and I kind of started to find my passion again. Now, I kept doing that for quite some time. And then about 2021, 2022, I realized that I was getting different. I was becoming different. I realized that there were days where I couldn't get out of bed. I realized that, I felt something was wrong with me. But I didn't quite know what it was. And when I tell you I couldn't get out of bed, like I literally feel like a Mack truck had hit me, because I'm the type of person historically that there's nothing that stops me. If I'm tired, I am not taking a nap. I got stuff to do. I am like the most driven person ever. And hustle was like my forte.
Yeah, that's your thing.
Okay. Yeah. And I just had that masculine energy all the time. Like I had to figure stuff out. I had to do things. The West Indian background in me is like, if you're sitting still, then you're lazy.
Yeah.
So for me to get hit by a truck and to say, I can't get out of bed right now.
Doesn't work for me. I just can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, I need a pill.
Yeah.
So
what's the quick fix here?
Like, what is this? So I call my doctor, and God, I love my family doctor. He's amazing. I call my doctor and he's like, okay, come in. So I go in, I get labs done and everything. He's like, maybe it's your thyroid, maybe you're entering into menopause, all these things. Of course, my labs all come back normal.
Of course. Yep.
So I reach out to a friend who's a naturopath, and he does some different labs and says, you might be starting to enter that phase, So I went like the plant-based route of estradiol and, all those types of things. And I just started paying attention. Okay. So that was kind of the first thing that happened to me. And then 2020, like the end of 2022, 2023, life really hit me. And I would say my mom lives in Jamaica, and she lives with me when she comes home in the summers. And, there was a lot of contrast happening with the boys and my husband and their dad. And like, there was a lot of family dynamics. And, as a woman, we have to juggle all of the things. And, my mom will always say, you're always a mom, right? So even when there's hardships in the family, like we always go to protect our children. We always, like my son called me at 4:00 in the morning last night, and, you just want to be there, and I really started to realize that I had to change because life was changing me. And, anyone that's divorced, that like, divorce is hard. It's hard on the kids. It's hard on the parents. It's hard to co-parent. It's hard on the people that step in and become step parents. It's just hard. And so I really had to learn how to manage life a lot differently. This was when that old feeling of the Mack truck got
right back
intensified.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about just feeling like I can't get out of bed. What started happening now was I started experiencing like fibromyalgia-like feelings where my limbs felt like someone was squeezing them so tight. And I would start crying because I literally felt like something's happening to my body. But
was it like the pain, like were you in that much pain, or was it just like what is happening?
No, it was so painful. And I would lie there and cry, and I'd be like, Ian, like, just like rub my legs. Like I couldn't figure out what was going on. And they did like tests and everything. And they were like, maybe there's an autoimmune disease. And I was like, something's not right. And
I just want to just pause for one second. I just want to remind anybody who's listening that, again, this is coming from somebody who was in like what we would consider in the best shape ever, so healthy, all this kind of stuff. And, you think you know what to do, you know what you're supposed to do, and you were just kind of lost. You're like, what's happening? And everybody was telling you you're fine.
Yeah. I like, and then you're like, well, is it in my head? Like, what's going on? Exactly. And so that was the beginning. And I really said to my husband, I said, I don't think this is a physical thing. I think this is trauma starting to show up in me. And I don't know like where I got that kind of insight from. I don't know like how that even came to me. Because at that phase in my life, I really wasn't really into what I'm into now. But I knew that something was going on. And it triggered emotional responses in me. So I as I was going to my doctor and trying to find all the things, I also went to an energetic, someone that does body talk, who I've been seeing for a while. And she literally said to me, "You're depressed." And she said, "Your heart is broken." And I was going through these things where, I was mourning the relationship with my kids. I was mourning them not being at home with me. I was mourning my mom leaving. I was heartbroken. Look, I was heartbroken. And, if you guys know the story of Lisa Marie Presley and her son, and how her son had passed, and they said that she died of a heart attack, and it was because she was heartbroken. So that happened. So I started to get these ideas in my head, like what was really happening. And my mom left. And then I think like everything just exacerbated. And I'm the type of person, I was never depressed. I don't have a family history of depression. Like I don't have that in me.
That's why it's so confusing though, right? You're like, that's the last thing that you think that it could be.
So, and I'm going to be very real on this podcast, probably a lot of things I've never talked about. And sorry if I start crying.
Thank you.
But I was so depressed, but high functioning depression, of course.
That's it. And I just, like, if anyone hears any of this, I want them to pay attention. That's it. Because you don't recognize it.
Wait till you hear it. So I'm a life coach. I can get on the call. I was doing all the things for my clients, right? I was showing up. I was helping them through their troubles, because it's always really easy to give advice, right? I'm good at what I do. I'm very good at what I do. The problem is that when I would get off the call with them, I would literally crawl into my bed. And then I would go to sleep, and I would not wake up until I had to pick up my daughter. If my daughter was not here, I will tell you, I probably would not have been here. I had suicidal thoughts, everything. Yeah. And there was weight gain. There were so many things. So anyways, but typical me, I was like, I can't let anybody see this, and my husband would know a little bit about it, but I couldn't let him know how bad it was, because it would make me weak. So I'd pick up my daughter, and then drag myself. And then it just got to a point. So this is probably like November, December, and I'm really struggling. And, holidays are really hard as a parent, and we're talking divorce 10 years ago. Okay. Yeah. So it's not like it's like a new divorce. Holidays are hard because you have to share holidays. Sometimes they're with you, sometimes they're not. So Christmases were really hard. So Christmas came. I think the boys were here for a little bit, but then they left. And then I would cry, and I wouldn't be able to be there emotionally for my daughter or my husband, because I'm mourning my whole family being together. And so there was that. So, I'm still pushing through. I'm still showing up online. I'm still doing all the things. My mom has no idea. I'm hardly talking to my mom, because my mom can see right through me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be seen. I was isolating myself. So my sister is very social. They would go out. I would not go out. I wanted to be home. I didn't want to be around people, but I would show up for my clients. January comes around, and then I'm still feeling the same way. So then we fast forward, and we're getting to February, and I had another breakdown, and it was one point where I was crying, and I was in bed, and my daughter, who at the time was probably 7 or 8.
How old was Nola? Okay.
Would come in my room and lie with me, because I was a mess. I could, and then remember, I had the pain on top of this. So she would be in the bed with me, and she would be sometimes crying because she's seeing me cry. And it was just horrible. And there just came a point where the doctor called me one day, my family doctor, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just want to remind you, your physical is in March." And I called and I said, "Okay, I'll just take it or whatever." And then I just had this thing like, you know what? I got to get away from here. I got to go away. And I was going to make an appointment. I was going to book a flight to go see my mom and just to get away. And so I called the doctor's office and I said, I'm going to have to cancel my appointment. And thank God for the receptionist who's known me for like 15 years. She said, "Robina, you don't sound good." And I started crying. And she goes, "David," that's my doctor. I know him I call him his first name. "David's going to call you right back." And my family doctor, guys, got on the phone with me and he called me every single day.
Wow.
To make sure I was okay. He was like, I said, "David, I need an antidepressant." And he was like, "I'm not giving you an antidepressant. You need to meditate." I said, "I meditate 3-4 times a day. I need an antidepressant." He was like, "Robina, I'm going to talk to you every week and we are going to stay accountable. I need you to fill out these forms so that I know what's happening with you." And he's like, "The first prescription I'm going to give you is you need to go and take care of yourself and go and see your mom." So I booked on a flight. I went to go see my mom, and that was hard because I was crying like all the time and I didn't want to cry in front of her because she would see right through me. But she saw that I was struggling for the first time. And I had to bring my daughter on that trip. But that was the turning point. When I came back, he did put me on an antidepressant and he continued to call me every week. We had a standing appointment every Friday at 7:30 in the morning. And he would talk to me and see how I was doing. And I'd have to fill out forms. And I honestly, as soon as I decided that I was going to take the pills, I got better. And it's weird because therapeutically, okay, that you need a certain level in your blood to start actually feeling the effects of serotonin and all the dope and all the good things. But he said to me, "It's because you had hope."
Because you associated that pill with, it's going to make me feel better. It's going to, and I think that you finally acknowledge things and you're like, okay, this is, and it's, that it's in your mind at that point in time, right? Like, oh, I'm getting better.
And there was such a stigma, especially as I do mindset work. And the thought behind it is if you have a good mindset, you'll never get sick or you'll never have depression, and your mindset. And yes, it is true. However, life is hard sometimes. And sometimes there's a loss of a job, death in the family, a diagnosis, and everything underneath you is pulled. And you have every resource I knew, I just couldn't do it.
And that's the key thing, I think, in all of this is that we think like you know exactly what to do. You tell people what to do every single day. And like, there's so many things that I've heard you say in this as well now too. Like even when you were talking about your divorce, you're like, was 10 years after, and like right away, like there's this judgment around like, oh, you should have been better a long time ago. It's 10 years ago. Like get over it. And it's like, no, that's not the case. And I feel like we're so hard on ourselves that we expect that we're supposed to be okay. And we, and it's, you don't allow yourself to process and to feel all the things. It's like we can't.
We have a get over it mentality in this society, right?
The perfect word for it.
And it's like, it's not just get over it. It's shove it down and just
don't deal with it. Yeah.
Life goes on. We need to make money. We need, like, the kids need you. Like, there's no time to process.
And it's incredible to me that, like, yes, you did the medication. Yes, you did all the stuff, but like, the doctor's orders, first of all, kudos to your doctor for calling you every day. That's, we don't get that enough. So kudos to him. But like the doctor's orders were like, Robina, go take care of you. Like stop taking care of other people, like go take care of you. And like, I admittedly am the biggest, culprit of that. I don't do it. Like it's, yeah, we just don't. We feel like there's just no time for it. You have to take care of everything else. And like, if I look back at my life too, and the biggest challenges that I went through over the last couple of years, it was not dealing with any of that, because it's the exact same thing. You lose yourself as a mom, as a person. You're confused. You're running a business, you're doing all these things, and you're just like, well, there's no time. Like, exactly what you said. Get over it. Get over it, Nicole. Get over it.
I think that we're in such a different time, and what was modeled for us by our parents was that mentality. They didn't have time to like deal with depression. They didn't have time to like, juggle life, and like we had to like do what we had to do, and so did they. And I think we're in this very different space right now where like mental health is a huge thing. And so it's so much more important than the things that we need, right? And one of the things one of my clients says, which I'm like, you're going to hear this until like forever, is she says, we don't change until we have to change. Well, she said, it's like I won't change until I get a diagnosis. And that is how life is with us, right? It's like we don't change the way we have to change until we are hit by impact. There are two ways to change. One is through impact, so loss of a job, death in family, health issue, or repetition. Okay, so I'll come back to that. But anyways, long story short, I was on the antidepressant for probably 5 months. He wanted me on it for 6, and then and I was on a really like low dose, probably like the lowest dose possible. And I just decided after I gained like 40, 50 pounds, I'm like, you know what? It was summertime. I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm done. I don't need this stuff anymore. And I remember him saying to me, he was like, okay, just wait till the 6-month mark and we'll reassess. And I was like, no, the next week, I literally took myself off it. So I'm not advising anyone to do that. What I would say is like, go to your doctor and figure out what's a safe dosage to come off of. I had made a decision. Okay. So that is one of the biggest things I would say is once you decide something, like in your consciousness, in your, like, it's like everything, you make a decision, the body follows. Okay. The body does follow. So I decided at that time, I started like reading a book, and I was doing like work with frequency and all this stuff with my clients, because I was really following the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza and talking about, how there's spontaneous healing that are happening with people when they start to meditate and they create new neural pathways. And I just got really intrigued by this whole idea, because the health issue that I was faced with started not from my physical body. I knew it started from something more, and I had to learn to uncover that more. And so I started really doing more research, and I had known someone who was doing their PhD and doctorate in natural medicine. And I was like, you know what, let me look into this. So I already had a bachelor and a master's degree in nursing. So I was like, well, I'm always taking courses. I might as well just do my PhD and doctorate while I'm at it. So that was the beginning. But what I did in this course of time, when I decided I was going to enroll in this course, this was in September of 2 years ago. I told my doctor, I'm thinking of doing my PhD and doctorate in natural medicine. And he said, Robina, do you really want to be a doctor when you're 50? And I'm like, yeah. I go, have you met me? So I was literally going to say that. Like, yeah, have you met me? Well, anyways, when he said that, I was kind of like, okay, you just lost some points with me. But what I got out of this was I found something to give me that spark again and to bring that life in me. And so everything that I was learning, I started integrating with my clients. So now when they're telling me they have like heart palpitations or something's going on with their insulin resistance, I'm like, okay, well, let's look at ancient Chinese medicine and look at what meridians are affected by that and how we can help that. Or let's reframe the emotion that is stored in the pancreas. And let's look at, how we can reframe the thought process that you're having. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking my experience And I'm helping people go through what they go through, because we live in a world that is very symptom based, and you take a pill for the symptom. But even though my doctor is amazing and I love him, but if he would have dug a little bit deeper, if he would have known about, all the trauma, that it wasn't just what was happening in my life, but what was happening in my life was a pattern of what had happened in my childhood that was just being recycled.
Yeah.
And I was feeling it about 30 times more because I never got to deal with my parents' divorce when I was younger, or the trauma that I witnessed or had done to me. And it was like just dealing with it over again, but in such a more traumatic, invasive way.
And that's exactly it. Like, it just comes back with a bang, right? It comes back with a vengeance, and I think that's what's so important, because anybody who's listening to this, I think we would all agree, we all have our stuff, no matter what it is. We all have our stuff. And I think it's not that it's only, pertains to entrepreneurs or self-employed people, but I think we're just that much more programmed to be like, again, we like just that suck it up mentality, right? We've got a business to run. We've got things to do. And not that it's only moms, but I want to say that, like, moms as well too. We just feel like, again, we have to put everybody, in front of us, and we can't take care of ourselves. And so if you could, because there's probably so many people there, and myself included, that resonate so much with you, and we're all like, okay, hey, well, we don't know where to start. Like, I'll use myself as an example. I am like you, or how you were back in the day. I'm the type of person that tries to go and sit and meditate, and I get kicked out of the class because I'm making noise or doing things, or like, and I just can't stop. I get, and for, I'm still dealing with it. The weight gain, all the kind of things, like, that you think you know what to do, but all of a sudden your body is just not listening to you. And it's a big joke. It's like, hey, Nicole, yeah, sorry, sucks for you, but nothing works anymore. And, just stopping. And actually, I'll throw in this part as well too, just to kind of talk about mindset. Me coming from a similar background as you were for, at least a good 20 years of my life, I was in, fabulous shape and all this kind of stuff, doing all the right things. Fast forwarding to having a baby, losing myself, significant, postpartum depression, didn't deal with it, but had it. And all of those things. And, going through a couple years where it's been really stressful, but I admittedly didn't deal with any of it. And so if there was one thing that I could do, or anybody in our situation, to just start, like, where do you start? All of a sudden, like, for sure we could, connect with you and work through the coaching. But if there was something that we could implement ourselves to just start being, okay to be honest about what's going on, and recognizing that just because we say we're okay, like, I'm the type of person, if you said to me, hey, Nicole, like, how are you? I'm good. It doesn't matter how, and I'm not even lying. I'm not even fronting. I genuinely feel fine.
You believe you're good.
But my body's like, yeah, you're a big liar. Like, so like, what would be the one, or even a few tips right off the bat that you would say, okay, hey, just for us to start, being open to all of the things that you're saying, where could we start?
Well, I think the first thing is becoming aware. And it's becoming aware that you don't feel good in whatever body you're in, or whatever space you're in. It's a big thing. I mean, and then put on top of that perimenopause, which is a whole other like blanket or layer on top of it. So I think the first thing is awareness, and that something's not right. Because we are constantly in this mindset where we have to keep going, and we are good. Yeah, we're good. But I will tell you with 1,000,000% certainty, your body is giving you signs. Exactly. And it will shut you down if you don't listen to it. 100%. I will tell you 1,000,000%. Yeah. Like, the body is so sophisticated. And the thing is like, I have a little chest pain. What is that? Oh, okay, it's gone. And then you forget about it. Oh, I've gained 20 pounds. I don't feel right anymore. Why am I so out of breath? The body is giving us clues. Yeah. And we don't listen, because we've been taught to think with here. And this makes us push through everything, right? But the real thing is that if you are not in alignment with your real self, then you're not going to pay attention. So a lot of the times I will say to people, you need to learn how to step outside of yourself. So let's say you're in a situation and something happens and it really irks you, it bothers you, and it could be a fight with a spouse, it could be a business, a coworker, it could be a client, whatever it is. We just feel like, oh, this person is on my nerves. And we're not really figuring out what the cause is, because it's never usually the thing. The feeling is reminding you of an old feeling. And that is where we have to go back to.
It's crazy that you're saying it, but it's so true, because we always attribute it to like, oh, that person, got on my nerves but I see that myself too. And this is hard for me to admit, but sometimes I'll snap at Kai, and I'm like, I have to tell myself, it's not that serious. Like, he's 5'5", like, relax, but I'm just so edgy. And that's not even something that's going to get me emotional, because I just find that, like, sometimes you realize you're so tired, you're so stressed, and you're on point for everybody else, for all your clients, because my clients will never tell you, never tell you that. But, it's just, and even like kind of unrelated, but I was just on a Disney cruise with Kai, and I was feeling all of those things. I was stressed. I was anxious because I was planning to work. My team was still kind of holding down the fort, but I was planning to work, at least a little bit. And on the boat, the reception sucked. Like, I paid for all the extras and there was just nothing. And I was genuinely anxious. The heart, like, I gotta get back to this. I gotta do this. And it was the best thing that ever happened for Kai and I, because I just had to be like, hey guys, you gotta hold down the fort. And, but I realized that, when I asked Kai what was the best thing and the best part of the trip, and he's like, Mama, you weren't on your phone. You weren't paying attention, to your phone, and you were just with me. And so that type of mom guilt and that all of a sudden stress, like, this is reminding me, because you talked about something, there's just one thing that just, and I remember having a moment on that, like, I was trying to be happy with him and I was just tearing up because I felt so guilty, so bad. I was just, a mess of emotions. And I realized it's been compiled from all of these last couple of years, the stress, the not being there, and it's like, even now, it's only been a couple of weeks. And I'm like, well, how do I deal with, how I'm feeling and regrouping and putting myself first and putting, taking away all that stress and that pressure, right? It's,
I think it's also having a safe space, and the thing is that we can't talk to sometimes our family members because they're so used to Nicole being this person, the productive person, the person that has it all together, the person anyone can go to when they need help. Like, you're the doer. And so you can't put down that mask and feel like, oh my God, everyone's going to see me. Everyone's going to think that I don't have it together. And so you need a safe space. That's one thing. Because for me, like, I needed to have external people to help me get through it. And it wasn't my family. It wasn't my husband. And Ian is my everything. Like, he coaches me through everything.
That's exactly. And you said you didn't want him to make you, like, you didn't want to appear weak, right? And like, knowing Ian, that was the last thing that he would think, but it was in your head that you're like, oh no, I can't.
I hold down everything. Like, I'm the masculine in this relationship. I do everything, I make sure he's good. And so one of the things that I had to do is I had to be okay with surrendering, because I knew that if I kept in that constant go role and avoiding and pushing down, I knew that I would end up heart attack, breast cancer. Like, I knew that. So I had to stop. And so a lot of the times what I teach people is, meditation is such a hard thing to do, but it's such a great thing to do, because I'll tell you guys, stress is like 90% of every health issue that is out there is related to stress, chronic stress. Our bodies are not meant to be in fight or flight mode, and our bodies do not know the difference between being chased by a tiger or being under the pressure of a deadline.
Wow. That's crazy. But it makes so much sense, but it's crazy because you're like, one is so like, they're not the same, but to your point, you're exactly
all the hormones, all the neurotransmitters are opened up, like cortisol is shooting, and then it throws off your estrogen, then it throws off your progesterone, then like everything is thrown off from that. So when we talk about perimenopause, on top of all this, the stress is making everything worse.
And you mentioned, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this as well too. You mentioned the sort of, masculine and feminine energy and all that kind of stuff. And I think like you and I are so similar, and, being an alpha female, we'll call it, even me, being, single and, dealing with all the kind of things that I do with Kai and a mom and running a business, I am always in that masculine energy. And I've been told this before, where it's like, Nicole, sometimes you just need to, relax and smit and just kind of let all those things go. And it's almost like it's impossible for me.
Yeah.
And if you really truly know me, I am like a big softie, but it's very difficult to get in that, because I just feel like it's so hard to relax, because you're constantly doing everything. You're holding down the fort. You're doing all of the things. So that's another thing where it's like, how do you, I guess, and maybe this just comes down to the meditation and learning how to do that, but how do you take a step back and realize like, okay, I need to find that balance. I need to embrace that, balance between both of those energies.
I'll tell you, it's usually impact that makes you do it.
That would make sense. Yeah. That
right.
Makes sense.
It's usually something happens, and then you realize, wow, like I can't continue like this. I mean, it happened to me. And I see it with all my clients. It's like, I work with people before they're sick, right? And then
you should, right? It's that we want to be proactive.
Right. The thing is that like people don't take all the advice. They don't do all the things because, I'll leave it, like, or I stopped eating properly, like, or I stopped exercising, or I stopped meditating. And, it's not until they get sick that they're like, oh, I need to really change my ways.
And then it takes that much longer, right? Like I'm the same person where if you look at my kitchen counter, I've got all of the stuff, like the supplements, the this, the that, and but it still doesn't change. You're still dealing with the same things. I still, I can't sleep at night, or I can't do things because I know, and I realize that I've got a lot of, stress and stuff. So I think like to your point, you're just like, you have to stop and do the things and actually do the work and put that in, as opposed to there's no pill, there's no, miracle.
I will tell you that your nervous system, if it's not regulated, you could work out all you want. You could eat all the best things. You can meditate, and none of that's going to do shit.
Literally. But that's exactly it. And I think that's the hardest part for me. I feel like where it's like, you want to do all of the things. Like even for me, like even with the whole weight gain and stuff, it was like driving me crazy. I was like, I know what to do. Like I spent like, and nothing is working. And then even something as simple as like, my coaches are people, and we know a lot of the same, amazing people in the health industry. And they're like, just start going for a walk or going. And to me, it would drive me crazy. I'm like, I'm sorry. What? Exactly. I need to push something, hit something. I need to sweat. I need to feel like I worked out. Exactly. And because we were up here, you go from here. And even if you think, hey, you know what, I'm going to scale back. I'm going to, do it 50%. To me, that stresses me, because I'm like, I'm half-assing something. I don't half-ass anything. But then I just don't do it, because then I get upset and I get stressed that, oh, I'm not, I can't do the things anymore. And so it just kind of, like you said, it snowballs, right?
So as we're getting older, okay, and this...
I have to admit that, but it's true.
Okay, so
both you're the same age, I think, in your 40s, right? Mid-40s?
I'm in my late 40s, so I'm going to be 47 this year. Yeah. And as we get older, our body doesn't need the same thing. And so what's really interesting is that, coming from the background that Ian and I both come from, the more we're realizing that it's not about heavy lifting, it's not about all of those things, it's about connecting to your prana, connecting to your chi, connecting with your breath, and slowing things down. Because if our body cannot breathe, that's when it starts to go.
And you know what? One of the things I appreciate the most is watching you guys grow over the years and seeing the different stages. And I remember I had this like aha moment not the last time I saw you, but when I saw you and Ian, and I hadn't seen Ian in a very long time. And so I know Ian through the high impact, the intensity, my boxing, all those kinds of things. And he stopped me and he was talking to me about a very similar thing. Like, and just hearing him talk about, no, it's about the breathing, it's about this, and it's about calming. And I was like, And so hearing it come from him too, it's like, wow, like, because again, it just goes to show that we think, we're here and our body needs different things at different times. Right. And it's even with, when I look at Kai, like I teach him to, I say, reset your energy and to breathe through things and stuff. And I watch him do it, and it's like these proud mama moments, but like, I don't even do it. Right. So sometimes it's exactly what you said, just taking, a step back and breathing. And I guess, like you said, just kind of being aware. And I guess I really want to emphasize out there that we all need to be aware of this, because I feel like, especially in our industry, in my industry, specifically with, finance and real estate, I think I speak for everyone to say it's a stressful industry, and especially the last couple of years. So I could think of just so many of my friends and colleagues right off the bat that are like, I know you're not good, because none of us are, we're all dealing with a lot of stress. And again, like, yes, we say we're good, but there's just so much, going on in our bodies. And the longer we leave it, and again, admittedly, I'm a big, culprit of it as well too. The longer we leave it, the worse it gets.
And maybe just even trying on some things, like some ideas. So it's, first of all, the really important thing is not to see yourself with judgment and question maybe why we're holding on to this weight, right? Like, why does my body feel like it needs to be protected from me? Right. And
really good way of looking at it.
Right. So, well, let's see. I'm under the gun all the time, and I'm constantly trying to work so that I can make money, so that we can have a good life. So I'm never present. I'm constantly always working and thinking of the next step, and before the shoe falls, like I'm constantly always going. And so if we actually look at ourselves from a place of curiosity versus judgment, and then see, well, where did I learn that behavior from? When did I not feel safe?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Your body does not feel safe with you. So when, like, and these are the kind of things I ask my clients is like, where did that stem from? When did you not feel safe? And it's usually before the age of 7, because our subconscious programming starts before the age of 7. And then we create these personas that help us through life based on all of those things to protect us. So we become the overachiever, right? We become the person that, needs to say yes to people so that they...
Pleasing. Yes,
Right.
it's a big one.
Or we're the person who works really hard at the office because then people can know that they can depend on you. That's how you're seen.
Yes.
But all of these things are just making things worse for us. And then we end up in burnout. And the physical burnout, that's the thing. The physical burnout is the thing that will make people stop.
Exactly. But meanwhile, the mental burnout has happened a long time before.
And the emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It's
right?
so true.
And that so, the real goal is to really give yourself some space. Journaling is really good too. Like at the end of it,
help you acknowledge stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
Like just really stop and think, okay, what, like those trigger moments and those points, right? Like what happened? Because if you don't think about it right then, you're probably going to forget, right? Like you need to kind of do that on a daily basis, I would guess.
Well, it's being insightful with yourself, because we're really insightful with our job. We're insightful with our children, but we're not insightful with ourselves. And again, it's just sitting down, brain dumping after the day. And even if you just write in your journal, today was amazing. Like, all these things happened. No, we don't do that. Right. So it's creating new habits that are in alignment with the vision that you have. So if you are somebody that is very focused on climbing the corporate ladder, or, making a certain amount of money, or becoming the best in your industry, that is not a vision for your life.
Mm-hmm.
That is a vision for your career.
It's so true. Yep.
That is not your life. And so what ends up happening is that comes with sacrifice. And the sacrifice is usually your health and your family, because they get the rest of you, not the best of you. And you think you'll celebrate when you get that achievement. But what happens if that achievement doesn't come before something else comes?
Yeah. And I feel like at that point too, we're so programmed, and we're so like, it's, you don't even embrace it, because you're just like, oh yeah, I achieved that. Now what? Like, I know I'm like that. Now what? Next.
That was me.
Right?
Yeah. It was like not being able to celebrate things. Right. Yeah. So one of the things I get my clients to do is like, ask them, like, what is your passion? And don't tell me it's your job. because you could lose your job tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? We have to have that inner fire. What is the fire? What fuels you? And then the other thing is like, what makes you happy? Most of the women that I work with, I probably would say 95% of them, when I first start talking to them, they literally don't know what they like.
Wow.
They don't know what they like because they've given it all up for their families, their children, their career. They don't know what they like, because what they like is like, oh, I hang out with some girls, we network, we talk about work, but that's not what you like. That's just...
It's so true, because you're saying this and I'm chuckling because I'm laughing in my head. I'm like, if she asked me that, what would I answer? And I would literally tell you, spending time with my son, being with time, or, having that fulfilling feeling when I, work with my clients, or like, I would tell you about those things. I would never, I don't even know what I would like. I'd have to think about my own personal
self. Like I literally have to take people back to high school and be like, what did you like then? And half the people didn't have anything for themselves then either, because we're not brought up to, take time for us. We're not brought up to do that. We always have a task. There's always something to do. It's never about filling yourself up.
And like, that's one thing I'm kind of related. I'm really working on, myself currently, is just like giving myself grace, like just taking a step back and just being like, okay, you know what? It's okay to not do this. Like I'm trying to do it in baby steps. Like ever since we
have to.
weeks,
have to.
It's just, especially because I'm like, again, we're so similar. I'm always just like, and so I just have to do the baby steps, like, and just kind of.
And because I'm an all or nothing person, like I do everything 110%. And that's why my parents will always say, if Robina says she's doing something, it's already 50% done in her mind.
Yeah.
But I've had to learn that the more change people need, the smaller the changes have to be. So like I have someone has a very successful business and like she doesn't feel passionate about what she's doing and is trying to build something for herself. And for me to say, okay, every week I need you to do this, 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 and this. And every week she doesn't do it. And I'm like, okay, so where did the belief system of you're not worthy, where did that stem from? So we have to start with 15 minutes of you every day putting into your calendar something for you to do for you. Because I'm not going to get you to do a half day. Like it's not going to work, right? So we have to create these sustainable habits that are going to support you, but also teach your body that we're not in front of the tiger anymore.
Yeah. It just becomes innate at that point, right? Because it's so used to it, and you just kind of, and then you add on a little bit more every so often, and just kind of work in that. I feel like there's so much. I feel like we could talk forever and hours, and I appreciate you just sharing all of this with us and being so vulnerable and helping us. And so tell me, where can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to get a hold of you if they want to chat with you more and kind of just start and see where they can go from here?
I'm on Instagram at Root of Healing. So Root, ROUTE of Healing. You can reach me on my website, which is www.rootofhealing.com. And just, I offer free discovery calls for people to kind of see if it's makes sense. Is it a good fit? Like how it kind of works out. But really and truly, my passion is helping women really empower themselves to get the life that they want. And it's working through like perimenopause and working through, maybe it's finding myself again, because most of the issues that are happening in women are related to feeling disconnected from what they're doing and what they want to be doing.
It's so true. And I would definitely encourage you guys to reach out to Robina. I'm always amazed by the cool things you're doing. You're always doing new things and adding different things to your practice. So I feel like because it's not a one size fits all in terms of, how to support someone or help someone, heal through their journey. So
we kind of use a whole bunch of different modalities. So I'm using frequency. I do, a reframing. So I work with people on 5 levels. So it's the physical, the energetic, the mental, the supramental, and then the bliss body. So I'm looking at not you from a one perspective. I'm looking at you from many different perspectives. So, there's dry blood analysis, there's frequency. I'm doing something now where I can actually see what's going on with your aura by taking a picture of what your aura is doing so that we can help your body come back to the energetic
New things. It's always new things you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's the biggest thing here too, is that like, this is not a knock to, anyone's a doctor or that type of sort of medicine, but like even myself personally, I was told for years that I'm okay after I had my son and stuff. And I wasn't. I ended up having to have surgeries. I was not okay. And so, just for somebody to be able to reach out and understand that there are different, methods. And if you're not feeling okay, you're probably not. Like there's something, like listen to all those little things, those little inside voice, whatever it is, or whatever your body's telling you, just listen to it, because it's like you said, it's our body's telling us something.
Yeah, I feel like the physical body, there is a time and place for medicine. There really is. And I'm not saying that, you do one without the other. This is complementary and it works with the body. My goal, though, is to help you reach your full potentiality in health. So it's like, okay, the doctors are looking at the symptoms and what is wrong with you, and I'm buffering what is right with you. And the things that we can do to strengthen your body, like looking at your sleep systems, like looking at your food intake, like looking at your habits and behaviors, looking at your thought process. Those are things that medical doctors do not do.
100%. Yeah, there's just, we'll definitely have to do another episode, because I feel like, again, we can chat for hours. So thank you again for joining us and blessing us with your time. So I appreciate it. And again, I'll make sure I put all of your contact information in the
and thank you for creating this space for women, because they need it.
Of course. Thank you. Until next time, guys, join us on another episode of MortgageEase Unfiltered.
Thanks for listening to MortgageEase Unfiltered. Hit subscribe and join us as we dive into mortgages, money, and the moments that matter. See you soon.